Recording live from Glory Hole Studios in Chicago and beyond. This is Cognitive Dissonance. Every episode we blast anyone who gets in our way. We bring critical thinking, skepticism, and irreverence to any topic that makes the news, makes it big, or makes us mad. It's skeptical, it's political, and there is no welcome mat. Today is Thursday, August 17th, and today is our Trump got indicted again, motherfuckers episode. Number 4.
Is this 4?
I saw
4.
the funniest meme about this the other day. I'm not a meme guy,
No, you're not a meme. I know. That's why
this one
already
killed
in
me.
shock.
It just said Trump has now been indicted more times than he's had consensual sex.
Yikes. Yikes. Also true.
True.
But yikes.
Very true.
Tom, for our listeners, for our patrons, the $2 patrons and up, get a indictment read.
They do.
Tom read
Audiobook.
90 some pages
Yeah.
of this. It's over 3 hours. I edited it today. It was posted. It should have been posted by now. I'm looking at the back of my hand without a watch on it. But Ian supposedly sent me a message and he said, hey, do you want it posted here, et cetera, et cetera. So before we live stream tonight, it should be up there. By the way, if you're watching this on Monday or you're listening to this on Monday, we recorded a live stream on Thursday. It should be available on YouTube and Twitch. We want to jump right in to this indictment. We want to talk about it in its entirety. Tom reads the whole thing, and there is a lot of repetition, but I'm going to try to sort of briefly summarize what the charges were. So it starts out, here's the counts. So racketeering, that's the main count. The RICO count is number 1. Then solicitation of violation of an oath by a public officer, that's 8 counts of that. There's 41 total counts. I'm not reading them all. I'm just going to summarize them. False statements and writings, 14 counts. Impersonating a public officer. Forgery in the first degree, 3 counts. Conspiracy to commit forgery in the first degree, 2 counts. Conspiracy to commit impersonating a public officer. Conspiracy to commit false statements and writings, 2 counts. Criminal attempt to commit false filing of documents. Conspiracy to commit filing of false documents. Criminal attempt to commit influencing witnesses. That's 2 counts. Filing false documents. Conspiracy to commit solicitation of false statements and writings. Influencing witnesses. Conspiracy to commit election fraud, 2 counts. Conspiracy to commit computer theft. Conspiracy to commit computer trespass. Conspiracy to commit computer invasion of privacy. Conspiracy to defraud the state, and perjury. And those are all...
Is that all, Cecil?
Those are all the counts. Now, this is not just for Donald Trump. There are many people who were indicted in this indictment because it's a RICO case. And to let you know what that means is RICO cases are conspiracy cases for large criminal organizations. Funny enough, Rudy Giuliani popularized RICO cases in New York.
To go after the mob. Yeah.
And now he is the subject of a RICO case, which is the greatest irony in the world. I don't know. But a RICO case, the interesting thing to understand, especially if you're listening to someone like Tom read the acts to you, each one of these acts, right?
Yes. Oh my
which
God,
are
guys.
There's almost 200 acts in here. What you have to understand is that even though each individual act might not be an actual crime, they are contributing to that conspiracy.
That's exactly right,
So it might not be illegal. Just like Trump tweeting a lie is not illegal. But if Trump tweets a lie as a conspiracy to defraud the government to overturn an election, that is a crime if he gets prosecuted for this RICO thing.
It felt to me, when I was thinking about this and how to describe it's a great, like I was thinking like, it's like describing all the parts of a Rube Goldberg machine.
Yes,
right?
yes,
Like,
very, very good apt. Yes.
Right, so like if at the end, the criminal thing at the end is, for a balloon to pop. And the first thing you do is knock over a domino.
Yeah.
And then that makes a, bowling pin, kick a boot to light a candle.
Sure.
Like you have to describe all the pieces of the Rube Goldberg machine in order to get to why did this balloon pop at the end? The balloon popping doesn't pop of its own accord. It pops as the inevitable result of a conspiracy of forces. And I think this, to my reading, this indictment does a beautiful job of laying out in exquisite and sometimes painful detail how each of these separate, often not illegal activities nonetheless were nefarious because they further the same cause.
Yeah. No, it's a great way to put it. And they also don't have to occur in Georgia. Right. And that's the other thing that a RICO case, there's a beauty to it in the sense that this shit can happen anywhere. But if it did further this crime in Georgia,
right,
it's fucking fair game, baby.
Fair game, bring it in.
600-page document by Congress interrogating people, all the investigations that happened because of these fake electors, all that stuff gets piled onto the scales.
Yep.
So, while you're looking at this, you have to consider that. And that's not the only count, right? RICO's the first one.
Yeah, I know.
But then there's a bunch of others.
41 other counts.
And we're going to get to some of these other ones, but there's some of these I'm just like, there's no way this isn't a slam dunk.
Dude, I know.
I don't know how you get out of this. This is a fucking slam dunk.
I think I said that in the reading at one point. I'm like, that's just a dunk.
Yeah, you're just fucking, that is
what
like
are you
a fucking 360 from the foul line.
What are
dunk.
you, like, there's some of this stuff. I really do think, dude, like, I don't know if Donald Trump will go to jail. I don't, because part of me doesn't believe that good things and justice can happen, right? But
I'm jaded as
I'll
well,
tell
my
you
friend.
what, someone's going to jail.
Man,
I want to see, okay, who's your number two that you want to see go to jail?
Number two is the guy who worked for the fucking Justice Department that tried to ride Trump's coattails to become the head of the Justice Department by falsifying shit and sending out. That's my number two.
That's your number two.
Number three is Giuliani.
Okay, all right.
He's a close three. But number two is that guy who was that weasel in the fucking background who nobody fucking knew about beforehand that kind of tried to fuck that guy in the face.
Acting attorney general
fuck
guy?
that guy. No, he wasn't even an acting. He was
the guy who wanted to be.
Yeah,
the environmental
the guy wanted to be acting.
Yeah.
That guy.
That guy.
Smith, I think his name is or something.
I want that guy to go.
Fuck that guy.
I want, obviously Trump is number one, but I want to see Giuliani go to jail.
I do too.
I really.
He's like, I really want to see number two.
And then I want to see Mark Meadows go to jail.
Mark Meadows too. Oh,
God.
I want to
go to prison, asshole.
I want to see Sidney Powell try to defend herself in this.
How?
I don't care. I don't, to be honest, I'm not crazy. I don't care what really happens in the end. Her going to jail would be justice.
It would.
But I'll tell you what, I just want to see her testimony. I want to see somebody put her on the stand.
I hope she gets a crack and lawyer.
See. That's what I want to see. Before we jump in deeper, let me read. So they put together a list and methods of the enterprise. And this basically outlines everything that they did in this indictment. So everything that they did that was wrong. So first, false statements and solicitation of state legislatures. Members of the enterprise, including several of the defendants, appeared at hearings in Fulton County, Georgia, before members of the Georgia General Assembly. At these hearings, members of the enterprise made false statements concerning fraud in the presidential election. The purpose of these false statements was to persuade Georgia electors to reject good electors. And this happened in other places. This is something that we've been following for forever. The fake electors thing was never really brought up, and there hasn't been any real fallout from anything until there was the indictment in D.C. That's when things started, and that's when we kind of learned
our ears perked up.
Breadth and depth of this, because we didn't really know how deep this went. We kind of knew, and they talked about it in the January 6th thing, but they kind of did a real sort of fast, let's move it, really quickly, because they only had a limited amount of time. That indictment that you read earlier this month, the D.C. one, that one outlines this elector thing as a big fucking deal. And this is where Georgia's hooking onto that as well.
Yeah, and I was, again, today reading this, I was stunned and appalled at how close they came.
Yeah.
That they I guess that my original, and this is my fault, right? But my original conception of this was that it was a plan being floated. Not that it was a plan that was enacted that just failed to pop, right? It fizzled out of the gate, but there were people who were like, I am the elector, man. Here's my letter that says I'm totes certifying myself as the elector. I'm here to overturn the God. I'm here to basically run a coup on your democracy. That is a thing where people, literal, actual, I was just like, I guess, again, in my head before these two indictments, reading about this stuff, and I thought following it fairly closely.
I know, man.
I thought this was a plan that was hatched, that was floated, but that ultimately didn't happen. And I've come to find out that no, this is a plan that was hatched, that was floated, that was approved, that was put into action, and that people performed the activity of. And the only reason it didn't work is that basically like Mike Pence was like, bro, what?
Well, the other thing too is when you and I were listening and paying attention and really covering this, and I was very deep in the weeds in the news stories about this, right? I was deep in the weeds because at that time, there was a listener who went off the crazy conspiracy end and was questioning every single thing that Trump would say. They would believe it. And they would say, well, they burned these ballots. Well, they did this. And I would send them fact check stuff.
Of all of it.
And they would say, well, I don't believe that source. And I'd be like, well, then I don't know what to tell you.
Right, yeah.
Other than this has been fact checked by news organizations that have a lot to lose here. You should believe me or you should not. You should certainly not believe the person who has something to gain from it.
Right.
That feels like bad skepticism in my opinion. But anyway, there's a lot. I was deep in the weeds in this. And I can't tell you how often I watched it play out. And even on January 6th, there was sort of a edge that felt buffoonish, right?
Yeah.
The Kraken lawsuit, the people who were running up into the Capitol felt buffoonish. They didn't they felt like they were lost. They didn't know what they were doing. They weren't organized. So while it was a heinous act against the government, I never once in the entire time that all this stuff was happening, I never really felt threatened. I was always like, yeah, it's scary, but I also think they're all comical buffoons. And so they're always planned to fail. And I think that's the problem is that even us and other people who were in the media played it out to be like, they never had a chance because they're all stupid and goofballs. And that's not the case.
No, man.
And the way this is being brought out now, they're like, no, they were a lot closer than you thought. There just so happened to be a few people that were standing in line waiting to stop this. But really, genuinely, the media played it out like these guys are a fucking joke. They're never like, they got a fucking lawsuit that's ridiculous. Get out of here. I can't believe they're going to do this.
Right.
And in this, but at the same time, like they were close.
They were so, I feel the same way. And I feel like I remember talking to you personally, not on the show, just personally. I don't remember if it was texting or talking, but like, when January 6th was happening, like you knew about it before I did. So like I wasn't aware. I was doing something else. I wasn't in front of the news or news cycle or radio. You knew about it. And I think you texted me something that was happening. And I'm like, wait, what? And then I'm trying to catch up. But I remember being like, what, I got like a shaman master stealing the podium?
Yeah.
I remember being like, these guys are so incompetent, they can't even storm the castle properly, you know? Like it just felt like, and a lot of the like first images that came out, and this is true of the whole coup attempt, the whole 2-month-long coup attempt. And that's really what it is.
Yes, no, and
that's really how it's got to be like.
You're not wrong.
Thought of. Like for the whole 2-month coup attempt, you'd find out this piece of information. You'd be like, that's silly. Oh, you got the Kraken Elite Squad power team or whatever. And then be like, some drunk girl from Michigan's like, and then I saw the ballots being stuffed. And you're like, all right, lady, whatever.
Sure.
Or like a fucking wolf shaman master shows up. And he's like, ah, whoa. And you're like, all right, man. But everything that you find out is like you dig 1 inch deeper into the soil. And you're like, wait a minute. Actually, there was intense violence. And there's a lot of footage of intense violence and attempts to murder people and to like people with fucking zip ties and shit. That's not what you saw first.
You didn't see that. Second. You did not see that. You're absolutely right.
And like the same is true of like these lawsuits. You're like, these are bullshit lawsuits. And like fake electors, that sounds like some crazy, like wild, greasy haired Giuliani shit. And you're like, yeah, man, they showed up. They mailed out letters saying, I'm the fucking elector. All this stuff was so much more serious. And like, the investigation, I think, again, like I think you're right. Like the initial media reports to me all sounded silly.
They sounded goofy.
And carnival-esque. And then you look underneath and you're like, holy shit, no, they were so close. And they were so close, not just on January 6th, but for the whole 2 months leading up to the coup.
And the tough part about it is that the anger that you had on January 6th and then finding out the images that were sort of given to us that diffused that anger.
Yeah.
But then you had to sort of reignite your anger once you found out the real stuff that happened. And
Right.
you're not as, because I'll tell you what, there would have been a lot more serious things happening, I think, much sooner if we knew the depth of what they were planning and those guys who were just across the river with all their guns.
Yeah, I was going to say,
you know what I mean?
Like, when you find out the Proud Boys had fucking like gun depots and that they specifically scouted these properties ahead of time, and that
there's a different
before
feel.
the march,
Different
they were
feel.
there. You know, they were there before the crowd marched. Yeah, I mean, you find out all this information. You're
well
like,
after though.
Holy shit!
Yeah. And then they had that whole impeachment hearing without any of this information.
Right.
Right.
I know.
None of that stuff came
because these investigations take time.
They take time. I'm going to read another one. So the next one. False statements and solicitation of high-ranking state officials. Members of the enterprise, including several of the defendants, made false statements in Fulton County and elsewhere in the state of Georgia to officials, including the governor, the Secretary of State, Speaker of the House. Members of the enterprise also corruptly solicited Georgia officials to violate their oaths in Georgia and the United States constitutions by unlawfully changing the outcome of presidential election in favor of Donald Trump. And I want to say a couple of things about this. The first is, I've been bitching for a long time about why doesn't anybody do anything? He's just lying. Can you just lie? Why can you just lie? There you go. Yeah. There it is right there. No, you fucking can't.
Yeah.
People have been letting it slip, but this person didn't. No, you fucking can't. Sit the fuck down. And the other thing is, I said it a couple weeks ago. That oath is just an oath, right? Who cares? It's just an oath. That guy just said those words and he got up today and then he decided to hold on to that oath and to defy those people, even though it was in his best interest. We talked about this 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Defying that oath is a fucking crime.
Yeah.
Convincing someone to defy that oath is a fucking crime.
You didn't know that.
And I didn't know that,
Did
right?
not know
I'm
that.
not a law guy, right? I'm just a dude. I'm just a guy, right? I didn't know that, but I'll tell you what. Thank fucking goodness it is, man.
I know, man.
What
I know.
the fuck?
I know. I felt a palpable sense of relief reading this particular indictment. Like, these things need to be illegal. Like, we talked on the show, and it's something we got a bit of criticism we're going to very briefly address. We talked a bit on the show where we talked about maybe it shouldn't be okay for these people to lie. And, like, it's not okay. Like, as you pointed out, it's not okay to lie. It depends on the venue and the context and who you're lying to, right?
And what you're trying to accomplish.
And what you're trying to accomplish. What is the lie aimed toward? And that's the difference between your First Amendment right and fraud, right? Is they're both lies, but what is one aimed to accomplish is exactly right. It's the context and everything else that surrounds it. You know, I said on the show a while back, and I just want to bring this up in case anyone else had a similar thought. I said on the show a while back that maybe we should hold public officials to a different and higher standard with respect to the truth.
Sure.
And I did see a piece of feedback, which I thought was kind of interesting. It said, you know, but if we do that, then federal officials, when asked a question about something that they're not allowed to talk about, would be like, how would they be able to respond to that? And I just want to say, like, they would respond to that by saying, I'm not allowed to talk about that, right? That is classified and I simply can't discuss it. There's a difference between not saying everything you know and lying.
Yeah.
And just straight out fucking lying. There is a big difference. I don't think you should be able to just make up an alternative fact. I do like that these indictments seem to be trying to roll back the time curtain on alternative facts.
I like that too. Number 3, Tom. Creation and distribution of false electoral college documents. I don't really have to read this. We know what happened. They basically tried to intervene and cast false elector.
Yeah.
And they caught them doing it, and they have those documents. And that's the end of it.
Yeah. That's where you and I are both like,
This next one, I did not understand the extent of this because this stuff is local to Georgia. So I didn't really understand the extent of it. I did hear this woman's testimony, but I didn't understand the extent of it. Harassment and intimidation of Fulton County election worker Ruby Freeman. Members of the enterprise, including several of the defendants, falsely accused election worker Ruby Freeman of committing election crimes. These false accusations were repeated to Georgia legislators and other officials in an effort to persuade them to unlawfully change the outcome of the presidential election. In furtherance to this scheme, members traveled to harass and intimidate Freeman and solicit her to falsely confess to crimes she did not commit. They sent like a PR person down. We'll get to it. They did a whole bunch of shit to try to convince her this is a brand new thing.
Yeah, I didn't know. I mean, they knocked on her door. They knocked on her neighbor's door.
They called her a bunch of times. They harassed her.
They straight up lied to her about like, oh, I'm here to help you. Like,
gross.
Terrible.
Solicitation of high-ranking United States Department of Justice officials. This is that guy who was basically, sending shit out on letterhead for the Justice Department. Members of the enterprise, including several of the defendants, corruptly solicited high-ranking U.S. Department of Justice officials to make false statements to the government officials in Fulton County, Georgia.
This is that line. Say that that shit's in question, and
Donald Trump
we'll let the Republicans deal with it.
Donald Trump stated to the acting United States Attorney General, just say the election was corrupt and we'll leave the rest to me and the Republican congressman. Solicitation of the Vice President of the United States. We are very familiar with that. We know that's one of the things that happened.
When he called Pence a pussy and a Boy Scout.
Pence, by the way, this week came out and said, and was on the side of this indictment to basically be like, yeah, no, he shouldn't have done any of that stuff. And, I was the one who stood with the Constitution. He was the one who wanted to be elected in spite of the Constitution. And so I probably said it way more powerfully than he did Tom, but you know what I mean?
1,000%. Yeah, if you could whimper while you're talking.
Yes, mother. Number 7, unlawful breach of election equipment in Georgia and elsewhere. I didn't realize that they had broken into some of this stuff and had asked for data they shouldn't have had. Members of the enterprise, including several defendants, conspired in Fulton County to unlawfully access secure voting equipment and voter data. In Georgia, members stole data, including ballot images, voting equipment software, personal voting information, and distributed it to other members, including those in different states. And so this is another thing we're going to talk about, but genuinely, this is one of those things which you're like, okay, this wasn't spoken about really a lot at all, but they're like walking in and taking shit that they shouldn't have.
Yeah.
There's other stuff that happened too that was intimidation based that you didn't hear about it then. You hear about it now, but I didn't hear about it
I didn't know it was happening then.
Yeah.
At one point, Mark Meadows himself
That's what I'm talking about.
And they're like, get the fuck out of here.
Can we help you?
He's like, bro, I'm Mark Meadows. You may know me from such places as Washington, D.C.
You may know me as such places as Mark Meadows. And they're like, go to your trailer in North Carolina, you fuck. Wherever you live,
piece
weirdo.
of shit.
This is the last one. Obstruction acts in furtherance of the conspiracy and cover-up. Members of the enterprise, including several of the defendants, filed false documents, made false statements to the government investigators, and committed perjury in judicial proceedings in Fulton County, Georgia, and elsewhere to cover up the conspiracy. So that's the basis of this whole thing. It's a brutal indictment. And like you say, the first part is all just the RICO stuff.
Yep.
So it's all, a ton of fake elector stuff, because the fake elector thing is the conspiracy, right? That's the conspiracy that they're building on. They had a plan to subvert the real electoral college, and they did it by conspiring with each other to plan to basically throw out real votes for fake votes.
And I know we said this last time he got indicted, which was an hour ago, but I think this is really important. Like, the fake electors didn't have to show up in order for this plan to work. This is what was so devious about this plan. In order for this plan to work, the fake electors didn't have to show up and have their votes counted as electoral votes in order for this plan to work. All that had to happen was the fake electors show up, or their votes show up, and they're sort of counted. That throws the system into chaos and turmoil.
Yes.
By throwing it into chaos and turmoil, they then had a plan that, look, even if the fake electors from Michigan or Georgia don't count, or Wisconsin or whatever don't count, then we can throw it to the legislature for the one vote, one count thing. And then the legislatures in these states are Republican dominated and Republican controlled. So the plan was, look, we can win at two different angles.
Yeah.
If we have fake electors, we either win if you count them, or we win if the fake elector, if opening up that envelope causes so much confusion that it throws it back to the courts. Maybe it goes to a court that's favorable to us. It throws it back to the state. It goes to a legislature that's favorable to us. The plan was so fucking devious because it had two elements that it could work by.
Yeah, it had two success conditions.
Right. Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
it had
it's
two
like
win conditions.
basically like it's a win condition.
Yeah,
it's like
right.
it's like when you could either capture the flag or kill all the other guys.
Right.
But either way you win.
Right.
And that's what they did. They had a plan. And you know that's true. You know what you said is true because the quote is, when he's speaking to the acting attorney general, just say the election was corrupt and leave the rest to me and the Republican congressman. Yep. He says out loud the plan.
Yeah.
The plan is...
That's so damning.
The plan is to overthrow this election by pitching it back to the Congress.
Yep.
And that thing with the Congress is so fucking weighted to the Republicans because they have more land. They own more land, but more people live in like 5 states than all the rest of that land.
Yep.
And so they have the way that system is, it wasn't just that the House of Representatives would be one vote, one for whatever, because we'd have won. It's the House of Representatives picks one person from their state to vote for them.
Yep.
So what happens is California that shits out like 40 some fucking electors. No, you get one.
Yep.
You get one. Yeah. And fucking Wyoming gets one.
Well, and like Wisconsin would basically be like, all right, great. Since there's confusion, we're going to throw away the votes of the people. We're going to disenfranchise all the voters of Wisconsin, and we're going to put up for vote by the legislature in Wisconsin, which is Republican dominated, and the Republicans are going to say, great, we cast all of our votes for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And that's that. And that's how.
And Georgia would have done the same thing.
Georgia would have done the same thing. And Pennsylvania might have done the same thing. And Arizona might have done the same thing.
It wouldn't have mattered because if with 2 of them, they'd have won.
They'd have won. So this whole plan, like every piece of the conspiracy, to your point, and to the RICO statute, like all of the other pieces lead to that. That's the balloon traveling up to the needle in the ceiling, right? That's the piece, that's the end piece of the mousetrap.
Yeah.
You know, and all of this other activity is really, and it's really aimed at this. And I did believe this was a Keystone coup. I really did.
I did too, man. That's a great way to, I like that Keystone coup. You got 2 guys on the end of elector ballot, and they smack another guy with it, and he falls off, and then the shaman jumps off the top ropes onto him or whatever. Yeah,
this felt to me at the time like a coup, like it was like written on a piece of like a giant pane of glass being carried across the street. You know, like it's like this is like real delicate. This was way more robust.
And here's a line from the New York Times that I read. It says, the claim that Mr. Trump's allies were involved in a plan to unlawfully gain access to secure voting equipment and voter data is a new criminal allegation that the Justice Department's indictment of Mr. Trump did not include. So they didn't include that in D.C., and this is kind of the first time that a lot of people are hearing about this because this is me too, because this is a widely spread out thing. And so, again, every one of these indictments pulls back another layer. And this indictment is great because they waited for the other ones to come out, right?
Yeah, right.
And then they just said, well, why don't I just fucking tape those together and call it a RICO case? Because, I mean, that's kind of what she did. And
this prosecutor has extensive experience prosecuting RICO. Extensive. This is her thing. Right? Like if somebody could have a law fetish, a prosecutorial law fetish, she fucking gets off on RICO. She successfully prosecuted a RICO against a bunch of teachers in a cheating scandal. Yeah. This lady knows, and like everything that I've listened to is like she is a fantastically good lawyer. Like she is just like, like you don't want to go up against this lady.
And Donald Trump has been lying on the record for years.
Yeah.
Lying on the record about this for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
What is it, 2.5, 3 years? It's 3 years now.
3 years, man.
Almost 3 years.
Yeah.
He's been lying about this. And you know what? It probably is 3 years because he was making these claims before the election even happened.
Yeah, he was laying the groundwork.
He was laying the groundwork for this already before the election even happened. But you know, for at least 2 years and 9 months, he's been lying about this particular thing on the record. There's plenty of tape out there of him saying this stuff. There's also plenty of tape of a bunch of people saying he knows it's not true.
Well,
and him lying is the fucking problem.
Yep. And what I love from both of these indictments, but this one also does a great job of it, is it outlines the timeline and narrative detail. It says, here's when these guys met. and they had a conversation where he was informed that there was no fucking fraud in Georgia. There was no fraud. He had that conversation. He asked me, it's like, no, none of that shit is true. And then at this o'clock later that same day, he tweets out, big fraud in Georgia. Go watch the fraud.
Yep.
At fraud.
Yeah.
You know?
And he's using the world's biggest microphone.
Yep.
Right? He was the president of the United States, and he knew every single tweet was going to get picked up by every station. So it's not that it's just Twitter's reach. It's that the reach of that tweet was beyond Twitter.
Yeah, because it's like his stupid Truth Social, right? That fucking moron truths something or whatever. And like, it doesn't matter that he's not on Twitter, because as soon as he truths some stupid shit, it becomes newsworthy.
Yeah.
And so everybody picks it up and puts it on their fucking Goodyear blimp and flies it around.
Yeah.
And now it's like everywhere you fucking look, if he was just confined to his dumbass Truth Social, nobody would see it, because I've literally never even heard of anybody being on Truth Social.
Of course you wouldn't. Yeah.
Right?
The only people that are there to watch Donald Trump say something.
Right. Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. I was also, Cecil, and I think you alluded to this earlier, I am deeply impressed by how, to my non-law talking guy mind, some of the technical pieces, some of the technical charges seem inescapable.
Yeah.
Some people are going to jail. When you write down, we the undersigned are the duly elected fucking representatives of the electoral whatever the fuck, and then you sign it, and you're not a you, the undersigned, just committed fraud, dickweed.
And if you need to trim your dickweeds, let me tell you about Manscaped, a sponsor for your bouncing bundle of joy. No, we're not talking about a baby. We're talking about your baby makers. That's right. Today's show is brought to you by Manscaped. But just like babies, your delicate little guys have sensitive skin and deserve products that are not only skin safe, but made with safe ingredients. That's where Manscaped's Platinum package comes in. From razors to shower care, this package goes above the gold standard for your body hair. So treat your beautiful boys to the world's finest toys at manscaped.com and use our code COGDIS for 20% off plus free shipping. The Manscaped Platinum Package 4.0 is a one-stop shop for a man who deserves it all. They designed this package to allow you to fully align your entire hygiene routine with elite products. Inside the Platinum Package, you'll find the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Ultra Premium Body Wash, Ultra Premium 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner, Ultra Premium deodorant, Crop Preserver, Anti-Chafing Ball Deodorant, Crop Reviver, Ball Spray Toner, Anti-Chafing Boxers, and the Shed Travel Bag to hold your goods while traveling. The Lawnmower 4.0 body trimmer and weed whacker nose and ear hair trimmer feature proprietary advanced skin safe technology. Let me repeat. Proprietary, advanced, skin-safe, trademark, technology to protect your delicate parts and holes. Like that guy on YouTube who had that one video. Never mind. Both are waterproof, so you can shave with less mess. In addition to shaving, you can now completely upgrade your shower routine with the Ultra Premium Body Wash and Ultra Premium 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner. You'll have your skin and hair feeling hydrated and smelling fresh. Don't forget to apply their aluminum-free Ultra Premium deodorant for that cologne quality scent on the go. The Platinum Package 4.0 covers all bases, from head to base of the to toe and hair to ball fro. I see, because you could also fro to fro, but okay. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code COGDIS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at Manscaped and use code COGDIS. Use the Platinum package because the gold standard is no longer good enough. And in case it wasn't clear, this is an ad. FTC, okay? So, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know what is your defense of that? Well, I totes
thought I was.
No, you didn't. Because like the thing says that you totes had a secret meeting that you were all like, hey guys, this is a fucking secret meeting.
And they have a ton of phone conversations that are happening right around when all this stuff is happening. And then like memorandums. And you're just like, okay, well, you're the dummy who wrote it down. So enjoy jail because there's no way you get out of that. There's no way you get out of the fake electors, I think, fucked. I think they are fucked.
Absolutely boned, dude.
And that's not a little like, oh, you messed up. That's a felony, bro.
Yeah.
That's like a straight up felony. So
and
like,
a lot of them it's more than one felony.
Enjoy jail. I also want to point out too, something else I noticed from this is that Eastman, he wasn't just what he was depicted as in the January 6th thing. Is Eastman is up there in his goofy hat, an unmatching coat, and he's talking and you know, like he's sort of the guy, the mad scientist in the background who's not really, he's just trying to convince people to like put the fucking electricity in the Frankenstein monster. He's not actually like, you know what I mean? He's just trying to convince a ton of people.
That's the way he's portrayed.
In this though, there's a lot of him pressuring.
Yep.
So when you read it, it's like Eastman did this. Eastman pressured this guy. Eastman pressured that guy. And you're like, wait a minute. I didn't realize how deep that guy was in until, and now you watch the January 6th thing and it's just him saying, I plead the fifth, I plead the fifth, I plead the fifth.
Yeah, there's no juice there.
But when you finally get to hear the things, places that he was and the people he was talking to and the phone calls he was making, now you're like, okay, no, that guy was absolutely a dick. And he was really trying to pressure this. He was really doing the work of this conspiracy.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing too, that this indictment stands out as different, is it lays out the legwork that these guys all put in to committing this fraud. You know, like Rudy Giuliani is traveling around the country, having fucking meetings with people in Michigan and meetings with people in Wisconsin and meetings with people in Georgia. They are having sit down fucking meetings to pressure people to create these fake electors. They are and then when he can't make it, he's on the fucking phone.
Yes.
He's like, okay, I'll send fucking Cheese Bro or whatever his fucking name was.
What's up, Cheese Bro?
I said his name funny every time I read it, by the way, guys. Every time I read it.
Cheese Bro is a great name, though.
Cheese Bro
Cheese
kills
Bro
me.
is a great name. That sounds like a frat where you have to eat a whole block of cheese.
I know, right? It sounds like somebody's name in a frat. It's like, oh, who's that? That's Squinky and Cheese Bro. Yeah.
That's Squee.
Yeah, right.
That's
Lifting weights with Cheese Bro.
His Eminence Kavanaugh and Cheese Bro. Yeah. I want to read this piece here because this is Act 108. Act 108 is Trump and Eastman felony offense, filing false documents.
This is one of the technical ones. I don't know how you get out of this.
In the U.S. District Court for Northern District of Georgia, a court of the United States basically believed that they filed false statements. Here's the false statements that they made. As many as 2,506 felons with an incomplete sentence voted illegally in the election in Georgia. At least 66,247 underage people voted in that same election in Georgia. At least 2,423 individuals voted illegally in the presidential election in Georgia who were not listed on the state records as having been registered. 1043 individuals who had illegally registered to vote using a post office box as their habitation. 10,315 dead people, and deliberate misinformation was used to instruct the Republican poll workers and members of the press to leave the premises of the night of 10 p.m. at the Fulton County. And so that was submitted in writing by the president and by Eastman. These are all false claims. You can't prove any of them, right? So you can't do anything. There's nothing you can say to prove any of this stuff. This isn't provable because like you don't have any of those things. They've already told you multiple times that you're incorrect. Not only did they do this, but news stations chased this down too and came up with the same conclusion. You have no proof and you know you lied. Now what?
Yeah, and I think, I'm again, layperson here, but this feels like the difference between lying. Like I can lie to you, right?
Sure.
Like I can say like, Cecil, I have an enormous penis.
You know what, Tom? One time I met this girl at Niagara Falls.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean?
But if I file that in court, right?
If you file, you have an enormous penis in court.
I feel like at some point, those chickens are coming home to roost. but only one at a time because there's not a lot of room for those other chickens.
You can't really roost. Yeah.
You know, like I'm just saying, like those chickens are coming home to peck. It's a pecker thing. So, but like I'm in trouble, right?
When this
like,
cock is in there's a lot of room in the hen house. That's all I'm saying.
It's just like, again, there's this difference. Like, and he can't say, well, I thought there were, right?
Because he knows it's false.
He knows it's false.
Yeah,
he's been told.
Also, it's made up.
Right.
Like, this is made up, man.
Yeah.
Somebody made this up. And also, like, I don't care if you thought it was true. You are the fucking president, man.
I know, man.
Just your fucking lead down. You're not even as good as like a B reporter. You can't, you don't have anybody who could vet shit for you. If you're that fucking incompetent, why are you a fucking president, man?
Man.
Get the fuck out of here.
I would have Sarah vet it for us.
Jesus Christ.
You know what I mean?
I mean, seriously, dude, there's been people, we've had people who have asked to be on the show, and you and I are just nice guys. We're like, yeah, sure, we'll have him on the show. And then like Ian or Sarah comes across like, no, that dude's like an openly jackass, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
I'm like, oh, you know what? We're busy tonight.
Right.
Because we're not those guys, right?
I'll take it a step further for you. Years and years and years ago, we had the inimitable Eli Bosnick on this show to regale us with a tale of yik-yakkery.
Yes.
That was all made up.
Yeah, it's all made up.
It was
the
all
facts
made
don't
up.
matter. Yeah.
None of it was true. And you know what? We all, including Eli, it became a running joke. We all corrected ourselves.
Yeah.
And we did not say, well, we've decided that because this might fit our narrative better, that we are just going to run with this alternative set of facts and continue to tell it. And we have no oaths. We never made any fucking oaths to anyone. We started a podcast.
Yeah.
You know, there's a huge fucking difference. That, like, Trump took a fucking oath. And just like these other guys, for real, like, we might make fun of those oaths, but like, there's a reason that we do them. There is a reason. And that's because in a civilized society based on law and order and rules, that we get people and we say, look, you worked really hard to want this job. You worked really hard to get this job, but you got to understand what this job really means. It means it's not about you, because this is how a democracy works. And your job is to the Constitution. And like, that may all sound hokey as fuck. And I think that it is a little hokey, but if it's not just hokum, if it's going to be, I don't know, the fucking literal bedrock, the fucking underpinning of our entire democracy, then like, we have to hold people to it. And if we're going to hold the Secretary of State for the fucking state of Georgia to his oath, then we got to hold the goddamn president who got the nuclear codes to his fucking oath.
Man. And I know for sure that he knew it was false. He didn't care. I know for sure. But even if he didn't, even if benefit of the fucking doubt, if he didn't, I still don't care.
Same, man.
I still don't fucking care.
Yeah.
113. Act 113 is another one. I'm just like, how the fuck do you get out of this? Okay. So this is false statements and writings. This is a felony. Okay. Donald Trump knowingly and willfully, unlawfully making at least one of the following statements and representations to Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger and Georgia Deputy Secretary of State Jordan Fuchs and Georgia Secretary of State General Counsel Ryan Germany. And this was the phone call. I don't have to read this off because there's 12 things. What is it? 13 things that he said. And the one of my favorites is the last one, that he won the November election by 400,000 votes. There's no way you think that's true.
Right. No.
You can't be on an official call with people. And like we said, we called it when we saw it. What he's doing is he's throwing spaghetti against the wall and hoping something sticks.
Yep.
And he keeps on hammering them as they try to answer and debunk each claim. Yep. He keeps answering different.
It's Gish Gallop stuff,
right?
It's Gish Gallop
That's
stuff.
exactly what it is, over and over and over again. And he doesn't stop. He keeps going. And even when he's presented, he is like, I got a better link. Or I don't believe media. I believe Trump media. I got Trump media. I got Trump social.
I
got
really
Trump
use the social media.
Social media. Or
I
whatever.
got better media.
Yeah. He's not even listening to you.
Yeah.
You could tell he's got his brain on autopilot because he has a list of bullets in front of him that he just wants to read to you, and he doesn't care what your response is.
No, because he's a guy who's not having a conversation. No. Right? A conversation involves a back and forth where you listen to the other person.
He's listing things.
Right.
Yeah. This is a honey-do list for the fucking Secretary of State.
Yeah, right.
That's what it is.
I have a question for you. you and I read this, and you and I are both like, how you getting out of this one, bitch? But is it because we're too honest? Because like, here's what I mean by that. Like, if you ask me, it's like, well, Tom, did you sign this thing that says you, the undersigned, are totes a real elector? And I'd be like, yeah. Well, you're not a real elector, and you fucking knew it. Yeah, I did. Like, what's the defense, right?
I don't know.
But like, I think the problem is I can't imagine a defense because like, I would be like, well, yeah, like it's not true.
I do know one of the defenses. Mark Meadows is pushing to get his case tried in federal court because he's saying that he was acting as the president's secondary. So he was never acting as himself. He was only acting in the interest of the office of the president of the United States, and therefore he should be doing a federal case. But then I think his final statement is going to be, I know nothing. This is some Nazi shit. I mean, genuinely, he's like, I did what I was told. He's going to say that. That's what his defense is going to be. I never had a hand in any of this. Trump just told me what to do when I did it. Tom, I guarantee that's what he's going to say.
Jesus Christ.
I guarantee that's what he's going to say.
Can we change the venue to Nuremberg?
I mean, might as well.
Holy fuck.
You know,
because it didn't work out. There was a lot of people hanging by their fucking necks.
Turns out, yeah. You know, they didn't hang Mike Pence. They hanged. But seriously, this is a guy who currently is trying to get his venue changed. So this is not. I already know that they're going to try to come up with things.
Yeah.
But there's very little you can do with this phone call, right? Because the phone call is your fucking voice. It's not this is a fucking AI out there.
And he admits to having this call. He says it's perfect.
It's a perfect call.
Perfect call.
So. I don't know. I mean, I genuinely don't. What do you do? The guy's going to be like, were you on the call? Yeah. Did you make those false statements? Well, I didn't think they were false, but you made them, right? Yeah.
But
okay.
you said these things?
All right.
Yeah. And what was your basis?
Yeah.
Tell me what was the basis for 2,506?
Yeah.
Where did that number
come be like,
from?
I heard it from somebody, and be like, did you fucking chase that lead down?
Yeah, tell me exactly who you heard it from.
Yeah.
Let's call them in as a witness.
Yeah.
Like this seems so easy to me.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not even a lawyer.
I don't know any of this.
I feel like I could kind of do it.
Wouldn't it be fun? Here's what I think. They should let one podcaster do one cross-examination.
Here's what I'm willing to do. I'm willing to hire a cosplay guy to do Donald Trump and sit here while we do it.
We got to do it. We got to get some fucking Trump in person. Oh, left wing, because I don't want some fucking right wing asshole in the studio.
No, is there a left wing? Is there a left wing Trump impersonator, Tom?
I don't know. But here's what's something else that occurred to me when you brought up Mike Pence. Is like we're in a world, and this is just kind of fun to think about. We're in a world so fucking insane that Bill Barr and Mike Pence can point and laugh and wag dick at all those other guys.
I know, dude.
Like those are also
like Mike
awful
Pompeo
people.
and like fucking Bolton and all those fucking scumbags that were on his that were fucking Sessions can even do it.
Yeah, man.
Jeff Sessions can even do it. Do you remember when Sessions accused himself of shady shit and then he disappeared?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
I do.
When you know who's not making a lot of fucking public statements lately is a Keebler elf named fucking Jeff Sessions, man, because he was smart enough to know I fucked up and I better be fucking quiet about it forever. And Trump fucking piled the shit up so high, Sessions could hide behind it.
It's so crazy. It's so crazy that like if you stop and think back to all those people that like got fired in supposed disgrace.
Yeah.
And now they're just like, nah. Oh,
I know.
Who got indicted? Who guys? When you guys were circling your fucking wagons?
Yeah.
How'd that turn out? Because it looks like all your wagons are on fire.
Who got fucking indicted?
Yeah.
I want to read a couple more pieces. So this is from the New York Times. I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this name correctly. Trevian Kuti was a former publicist to R. Kelly and Kanye West, who became involved in seeking to pressure.
Would you write that down on purpose?
Became involved in seeking to pressure one of Georgia's election workers, Ruby Freeman, into cooperating with the false statements and voter fraud. And they actually have this woman on tape. They have her on videotape talking to either Ruby Freeman or the other
her mom, right?
I don't remember who's who.
I don't remember who's who either.
Yeah, I don't know who's who. One of them is Ruby Freeman, and the other one is Moss. Her last name is Moss.
Okay.
So, but in any case, it's one or the other, because I can't tell because there's masks on people's faces, and it's like kind of partially like it's very surreptitiously cell phoned. And so, but she was trying to pressure her, and it's literally on tape. Again, like,
what are you going to do now?
What do you do?
Right.
Like, these people were like, as much as, I mean, granted, as much as we want to talk about the seriousness of this, some of these things they did were genuinely stupid.
Oh,
like,
my God.
genuinely stupid.
And they seem to act with this weird impunity.
Yes.
That's something else that occurred to me while I was reading this, is they seem to act as if like they were as bold as brass.
Yeah.
As if there was like never going to be anyone looking into this. And I think they thought, if we win, they won't.
Yeah, no, and they were right.
And they were right.
And they were right.
Because still, this case is untenable to pursue, even though it's a state case. If Trump wins, if this case has not been decided, basically like they'll just cock block this for at least 4 years.
For 4 years, they can't do anything.
They can't do anything.
But as soon as he steps down,
Then
first
they'll
day off,
pursue-
they can pursue
come
it.
at it again.
I want to talk about that just for a second. What I foresee happening if Trump loses, let's say he loses the nomination or loses the election. What I foresee happening, and let's just say we'll go down this road. Trump gets convicted.
Yeah.
Trump goes to prison. What I foresee happening in Georgia from this point on is a race for governorship to pardon Trump. So from this point on, the talking point for every single Georgia candidate is going to be, if you elect me, I will pardon Trump. And if they lose the governorship at all, which can happen, it clearly can happen. I mean, granted, they won the electoral college vote down there by 12,000 votes. 10,000, 11,000.
11,000, we need 11,789 votes.
79 or whatever it was. But genuinely, that's a fluctuating thing that can easily turn the other way. And that would mean the Democrats would have to vote as hard against Trump every single time for governor. And if they don't, then the first act of whoever is in office is going to be, and it could be Marjorie Taylor Greene who's their governor. I mean, she could be their governor.
Jesus fucking Christ.
And it would be a full pardon as soon as they came in.
Do you think, okay, so here's something that's interesting to me, at least, is that like we're finally at a place where Mike Pence is openly criticizing Trump.
Yeah.
That up until very recently was not the case. Like very recently.
No, you're right.
And, Chris Christie was always critical. DeSantis was not terribly critical, has not been. He's managed to avoid. Most of the Republican challengers have been sort of threading that needle of still not wanting to alienate the Trumpist base. So they're not coming after Trump. Do you think anything changes the Trump Republicanism? Like, is there any point? Is there anything? Because I thought on January 7th.
I know, me too, dude.
That the Republican establishment was going to be like, fuck this guy. And I thought that because a bunch of them stood up and gave speeches called, fuck this guy.
And what happened
they all
was,
walked him back.
Yeah,
all of them walked
it back. I saw a comment from one of the Republican heads in Georgia who was asked a question like this, which basically said, I hope this is the moment that we can separate ourselves from Donald Trump. I'm saying that in Cecil's language, not what he said. He said it much more carefully than I did, but that was the gist of what he had to say. So I think that there has been, since the beginning, a bunch of people jumping on the eject button, right? Since the beginning. I mean, if you roll the clock back far enough, Lindsey Graham was one of those people.
I know.
So there's been people for a long time who've been saying, now's the time to eject. But at this point, there's a lot of people who are still entwined. And so I think what really needs to happen is there needs to be a group of people who gets together and says, a large group of voters who are Republican, who need to get together and be like, stop this now, or we won't vote for you anymore. And they need to be much louder than the Lincoln Project. They need to be much louder and more vociferous than a lot of these smaller groups of Republicans who have broken off. If that happens, they will change their mind. It's about voter numbers. It's not about anything else. It's certainly not about loyalty to Trump. It's not about loyalty to an idea. These people are all saying the same thing, which is basically that Trump is being attacked by our judicial system.
Right.
That's the line that they're using. So, I mean, it's an easy line for them to follow.
What occurs to me is that if if the first one or two or three or whatever of these cases gets into the courts and they start to have a trial, if it starts to go bad, the other thing I can see happening is the money dries up.
If the
Big
money dries
corporate
up, that's a
PAC money.
big deal. That's a big deal too. So there's, hey, maybe there's 2 win conditions, Tom.
Maybe there's 2 win conditions for
we'll see.
us.
Maybe. I want to talk about Mark Meadows because we alluded to it earlier.
Oh, fuck Mark Meadows.
So one of the things that happened that I didn't really know was that they had gone to Georgia and they said, we want to recount, which is perfectly within their rights, and they got to recount. And then they came back, and I think they had lost some votes, and they wanted another one. And I think they got 2 recounts. I'm pretty sure they got 2 recounts, but then they asked again for a signature verification, which has never happened ever. And it's one of these really weird requests that shouldn't really be, it's like, no,
it's not really
that's stupid. But they asked for it, and then that's what they got it. And that's what Mark Meadows came down.
He wanted to watch the verification.
Go in. I mean, clearly a party of this entire thing wanted to walk in and oversee it. And they basically said, look, get the fuck out of here. Like,
Right.
What are you doing? And he genuinely tried to walk in to see this thing occur. And they all said, all the people there were, no, you don't get to do that. But he was trying to intimidate people.
Absolutely. He was trying to walk in and like flex dick and be like, hey, because I'm Mark Meadows, I get to be here.
Yeah.
And to the credit of local officials were like, great story, bro. I know you're a big swinging dick where you come from, but here in Georgia, we got our own shit tight.
Yeah.
And that's it. They also tried to claim that the state of Georgia officials said that 10% of their votes were like not reliable.
Yeah.
Like one of the things that they were saying, like, oh yeah, Georgia says that about 10% of their votes aren't reliable. And the Georgians were like,
no,
the fuck are you talking about? Like we said this was like a monstrously fair and free election and like well organized and like essentially no fraud. And like we've looked into every claim. What are you talking about? 10%.
And that's the thing is all this stuff gets run back constantly all across, everywhere across the United States. And we saw time and time and time again, it was off by like 12 votes.
It's nothing.
Out of, 1 million votes, they were off by 12.
Yeah. When they do these recounts, they're statistically identical.
Yeah. Essentially, they don't change anything.
Yep.
Right. And they said it over and over and over again. And it's false by the numbers you're using, right? You like
too big and too
you're
round.
lying
Yep.
because these numbers are just too big. Like you can't justify saying these things if you have a fucking atom bouncing around in your head powering your body.
I know, man.
You can't say these things and still think they're true.
No, you can't. But I think the point is like they never believed they were true. They just wanted to whip up public sentiment.
Which again points to this RICO case and points to them being liars. Like this is what you're claiming. If you sit them down on the stand, you got to say what you're claiming has never happened in an American election ever in the history of ever. So what you're saying is something that never has happened before. By the numbers, you're saying it's orders of magnitude larger than any fraud that's ever been undertaken ever in the history of all of our elections. So there's no way you just made that. You mean that you just made that number up? There's no way you have any data backing that up because it's orders of magnitude larger.
Yeah, right. Like even when they got the fucking Ninja Turtles or whatever in Arizona to do the recount.
Cyber ninjas.
Yeah, they came back and like Leonardo was like, yeah, man, like I don't know what to tell you. It's actually worse for your boy than it was. And that was the most partisan group of bean counters that have ever been hired. Yeah. They were incompetent partisan bean counters. And they were just like, yeah, man, we counted all the fucking pizza in the sewer.
Sorry, man,
we're fucking
we're heroes in a half shell. We're out to go fight Shredder. We have things to do. I want to read the
Shredder. All the votes got put in a shredder.
I want to read the Sidney Powell thing. This is again from the New York Times. Sidney Powell, a lawyer advising Trump, was indicted for her role in tampering with electronic ballots. The episode involved her hiring a company called Sullivan Strickler to scour voting systems in Georgia and other states for evidence of fraud or miscounts. At one point, a team working on Mr. Trump's behalf visited a county about 200 miles from Atlanta and scanned election equipment. A law firm hired by Sullivan and Strickler would later release a statement saying that the company, quote, knowing everything they know now, they would not take any further work of this kind, end quote. So it shows you like
The lawyer's like, I'm not.
everyone is backing away from this. And look at the other thing too is I think those vote counters knew that if they falsified something, they're on the hook for something big. If they're the ones who shout there's fraud and there's no fraud, now you're in some real shit. And I think all of them recognized that and said, nah, man, we're good. Nah, there's no fraud. I'm off to eat a pizza.
Yep, right. You know, another thing occurs to me, Cecil, is I don't know if it's a third win condition, but it is certainly a massive potential weakness is it's going to be harder and harder and harder and harder. And I mean exponentially so from indictment 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 for Trump to find good lawyers.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Yeah, he's
had a hard time
diminishing
finding
returns
lawyers
from this point.
Yep. And so like as this goes on and as the evidence looks, because like what is the advantage of your firm? Like if you're a big swing and dick law firm, what is the advantage of your firm taking on this case?
Yeah, man. At this point, he's going to be asking like law colleges for interns.
He's going to, well, yeah, and that's kind of the problem he had during the election cycle when he was trying to do this coup.
Yeah.
He had like, they're like, oh, we got the elite Kraken super team or whatever. And like, you look at him, you're like, it's just this one crackpot lady that like, even the Fox News was like, she's unhinged.
There's something wrong with her.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not good. It's not good for your shit.
After looking this thing over and I listened to it being read, I got to say, like every time one of these comes out, I think, how do you get out of this?
How?
And especially because I've seen the evidence and I've heard the evidence with my own ears. I've heard this evidence.
Yep.
I've seen this evidence. What are you going to do? How do you get out of this?
Run out the clock. That's the only answer.
And you're right. That's the only answer. But the way that things are shaping up, it might not be possible. So, and in Georgia, I don't think they fucking care because federal government has to pussyfoot around this stuff.
Yeah.
Georgia is just like, we'll just try you when we try you.
Yep.
Like,
they basically said, we're going to try all 19 of these fuckers.
Yeah.
We're going to do it in 6 months.
Yeah. 6 months is a short amount of time, man. Short amount of time. And they have a ton of evidence that we didn't see.
Yep.
Right? There's all this, but then they're going to be sharing stuff that we did not see. This was all just to get a grand jury to say yes.
Do you know what would be the most happy thing? And this won't happen. I know that this will not happen. I certainly genuinely know. This isn't even a hope. I would love it if Trump did not win the nomination. Because then it would just be this massive defeat going in to all these cases.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel like he's going to have a hard time. The first debate is next week.
Is it really?
On a Wednesday, I think.
Didn't he? But he refused to sign the pledge. Did you hear about this? He refused to sign the pledge that says that if he's not the nominee, he'll support the nominee.
Well, he won't be invited on that stage.
And that's a debate condition.
Yeah.
And I think that that's intentional because he does not want to debate. So if I were Trump, I wouldn't debate because by the numbers, and I've listened to a couple of like news shows about this, by the numbers, he kind of can't lose the nomination because about 33% of the Republican voting bloc is always Trumpers. They don't care. They're gonna vote for Trump. They would never vote for anyone other than Trump. So like when you crunch those numbers, he kind of can't lose. Like he kind of cannot lose the nomination. And nobody,
especially because there's too many people on the ballot.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody's even close to picking off enough of that available 66%.
Not even close, yeah.
So like he has nothing to gain from standing on that stage. He only has a lot to lose. If I were him, I'd be like, you can fight for my fucking scraps, you dumbasses. Like, fight for the scraps. And no one will watch it unless I'm there. So I can take all the air out of that room by not walking in that room.
Yeah, man.
The best debate move would be for him not to show.
Why is he smart sometimes?
I don't
sometimes
know.
Like once in a while, he's smart. And you're like, damn it, don't be smart.
I know.
Always be dumb. Always be being dumber. All right. If you're interested in Tom reading this entire indictment to you, you can become a patron at patreon.com/dissonancepod or dissonancepod.com. And there's a link on one of the pages. I think it's on the front page of like patron. You can become a patron or support the show. You just click it and it'll take you right there. We, of course, love all our patrons. Half of this cast does this for a living now. So if you're interested in being a patron, we would, of course, love your patronage. You help support the show, and you help us to do this work, which we put a lot of time into.
Yeah.
All right. That is going to wrap it up for this week. Remember, check out our live stream that happened last Thursday, and watch your feeds this upcoming Thursday for a funny show. But we're going to leave you like we always do with the Skeptic's Creed.
Credulity is not a virtue. It's fortune cookie cutter, mommy issue, hypno-Babylon bullshit. Couched in scientician, double bubble, toil and trouble, pseudo quasi alternative, acupunctuating, pressurized, stereogram, pyramidal, free energy healing, watered downward spiral, brain deadpan sales pitch, late night info docutainment. Leo, Pisces, cancer cures, detox, reflex, foot massage, death and towers, tarot cards, psychic healing, crystal balls, Bigfoot, Yeti, aliens, churches, mosques and synagogues, temples, dragons, giant worms, Atlantis, dolphins, truthers, birthers, witches, wizards, vaccine nuts, shaman healers, evangelists, conspiracy, doublespeak, stigmata, nonsense. Expose your sides. Thrust your hands, bloody, evidential, conclusive. Doubt even this.
The opinions and information provided on this podcast are intended for entertainment purposes only. All opinions are solely that of Glory Hole Studios, LLC. Cognitive Dissonance makes no representations as to accuracy, completeness, currentness, suitability, or validity of any information, and will not be liable for any errors, damages, or butthurt arising from consumption. All information is provided on an as-is basis. No refunds. Produced in association with the local Dairy Council and viewers like you.